What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Jacob in Wisconsin, down here in Tennessee, ready to talk some Packers. We've got several topics to hit tonight, man. There was a lot of Packers news that really came across the wire. It was kind of a fun day, man. This time of the year, Jacob, before the draft, we're about, roughly a month out, a little more. It gets a little dead, and then things ramp up as you get closer to the draft. But it's just pretty cool that the way the news and all the prospect information is kind of trickling in, it's working out perfect to do a podcast. I'll tell you that, man. As we had a top 30 visit today, to the best of my knowledge, we'll cover all that. But how was your day, man? And before we get going here, is there anything on the forefront of your mind you'd like to hit on?
First of all, day was good. Like I was just telling you, we skipped was supposed to be a pretty decent snowstorm, so definitely happy to skip that and keep the kind of the early spring going. I did, see a bunch of different news kind of flashing around today. I was kind of distracted for most of the day, but did you get a chance to listen to our kind of flagship podcast, Mr. Ryan Schlip's podcast this morning?
I didn't get to finish his show actually, maybe I did. I'm trying to think. I listened to a full episode, but I might have been a day behind. What was the topics he hit on today? Because I know I listened to the Cincinnati Bengals one where he broke down the salary cap. That was a couple days ago. Mm-hmm. And then today I'm trying to remember what he covered, but I think I did listen to that podcast today.
He basically, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I've been listening to Ryan, been working with him on and off for years and years, and it's very few and far between. He'll go on rants a lot, but not ever where he gets, to the point where you can tell he's sincerely annoyed. He kind of, here, it looks like too old for this thought.
I remember now.
It is talking about kind of how people are just, Packer fans specifically, how they'll make these bold claims and have absolutely nothing to back it up. You know what I mean? And
right.
Certain things like, now we have to do this in this round. We have to pick this position in this pick. We have to do this. Goody has made it so we can't do anything other than what the, casual fan base wants us to do. And then he's like, all right, I got to take a break. I got to, I'll get and then he came back out of the break and then started on a different topic. And then he's like, all right, I'm going back in it. Like you could tell he's very wired up about the topic. And I completely agree with him. I think we got to stop being so maybe one track minded and realize that the draft is not there to fit a perfect puzzle piece of what we think it should before the draft starts. It's a react and adapt kind of thing where you try to get the best possible player at your position. I just think it was good to highlight that.
Yeah, and listen, there's a couple of different ways you can handle it, and Ryan does have the best rants, and he approaches it much different than me on social media. Like he'll kind of engage back and forth and let people know, yeah, I disagree with that. Me, when I see some of these tweets, I'm just like, man, I ain't doing it. I don't need the brain damage. You can try to prove someone wrong and feel like you did a good job. And in their mind, it's like this guy's still an idiot. He still disagrees. But I loved hearing him talk about how it's just like, what do you want Brian Gutekunst to do? We talked about it. Anybody who watches this show knows going into free agency last year, we were like, damn, dude, let's go get Xavier McKinney. Let's possibly get Bobby Wagner. Let's lock down a couple of these players. Like, hey, these are great veteran. Like you're overpaying for great, not overpaying for good type people, right? Xavier McKinney was at the top of the list. So we talked about that. Going into free agency this year, Jacob, we were going, don't really like this free agency this year, And if I had to pick two, and that's exactly how I worded it, give me Chris Godwin, wide receiver, right? And then we said Drew Dalman at center wouldn't be a bad pick up there, seeing that Josh Myers is walking. We didn't have Aaron Banks on our radar, but it doesn't mean he's not a good football player. And the fact that you were willing to structure the contract in the way you did, to me, it seems like with the Aaron Banks signing, it's real simple. It's hey, look, you got 2 years to kind of prove it. And, oh, by the way, the guaranteed money's up in 2 years, essentially, is what it comes down to. It's, it's very maneuverable in that regard. I think there was $27 million fully guaranteed, right? Which ain't that bad. Essentially what you're saying is, you could probably have it for 3 years, $13 million per, and then get out of the rest if you need to. There's a multiple different ways you could look at it, but it doesn't mean he's a bad player just because he wasn't on everybody's radar. And people that are breaking down a tape, what I noticed, people turn on the tape and they went, oh, this dude's pretty damn good. Like he moves around well. Oh, he only gave up 1 sack. Like some of the key statistics that that truly matter. But yeah, with what Ryan's saying there, basically, and just to paraphrase, guys, or to kind of give you a glimpse into what he said, was, everybody's now saying you got to take a wide receiver in the first round. Well, we got to take a receiver here now. We got to do that. And it's so refreshing hearing Ryan say, well, you take the best player available is what you're doing. Like, and that's what we've always talked about. Like when we do I loved his rant too, Jacob, on mock drafts. People do mock drafts based off of need, meaning, well, here's our biggest need. We're going to take that in the first round. Here's our next to biggest need. We're going to take that in the second round. Listen, your needs drive your draft. Don't get me wrong. But you have the needs in front of you, like, okay, here's the slots we want to fill. And then you let the board fall the way it does to get the best players of those needs as you come across those needs. What I mean by that is, like, we could use a future number one receiver, right? Like a guy that has the high potential to be a number one receiver. If Ted McMillan falls to 23, that's the perfect example of, boy, the stars lined up. Let's go grab this son of a gun, right? Now, let's say that there's a 3-tech there that's solid, and he's the only 3-tech in that current tier of overall talent there. Okay, cool. Then it's 3-tech. Well, guess what? You have a 3-tech need for the future because Kenny most likely will not be on the roster next year, or at least won't be playing under that cap hit, and Kenny isn't the Kenny of old. We know that. You could go a multitude of ways like that, like with Jair and the cornerback. I love what Ryan said about wide receiver. When you go get McCole Hardman, you didn't paint yourself into a corner of, all right, receiver, right? Because the reality is McCole might not even make the roster. That's fact, right? But if he does, you've got a good punt returner, and you've got a guy that can take the top off with his speed. So I don't know. I thought it was a great episode, which he always puts out great work. I just going, Ryan, man, don't let him do this to you. Like, it ain't worth.
Tell he's getting a little peeved.
It will give you brain damage, man.
I think what Too Old for This is saying, I'm never going to stop calling you that, by the way. You're basically the Washington Redskins.
Name back. Yeah.
He said, I love how Ryan asked if we could name the last 7 first-round picks of the Jags, because I'm sure not one person could name the last 5 firsts of any team besides the team that they root for, which I thought was a great point, because we are sitting here looking through a lens, looking through a scope of diehard Packer fans, that we literally study this stuff like freaking psychos. But that just means that we have gotten to know these individual players. We've seen the journey they've taken. We've seen the way that it works out or it doesn't. So it's fresh in our minds. It's the only thing we see. All we see are the failures, and we see our glaring successes. But at the same time, if you were to take a step back and look at it from 30,000 feet, there's very few. I mean, other than the Eagles, which have been on like kind of a crazy run lately of just striking some freaking gold, most teams are going to strike out in the draft, because guess what? Most players that get drafted aren't going to be all pro. They're not going to be Pro Bowlers, not going to be Hall of Fame. They're going to have maybe 1 or 2 splash years, and then something's going to happen where their career falls off. It's just the way it works.
No, I completely agree. And listen, Howie Roseman, I don't want to sound, I'm trying to think of the way to describe this. I want to make sure people know exactly how I feel about Brian Gutekunst. I think Gutekunst is a good GM. I don't think Gutekunst is a top 3 GM. That's just me personally. I could be wrong. Howie Roseman and what he did, building 2 championship teams, 2 different times, and doing it in a different way of, okay, let's reset, let's do it again. I put him in the upper echelon, right? Is Goody a top 10 GM? I think so. Yeah. I think the only thing that's lacking with Goody is we never truly go to, okay, let's take that next step with a few veterans, right? A little veteran leadership on the team. I think we've kind of missed out on that a bit. That doesn't mean he's a bad GM, right? Yeah. And if you go on a run, and what he's looking at is these players that were, the youngest team in the league last year, in their second year, that they take that step that the coaching staff's expecting them to take. And I imagine with exit interviews, they had those conversations. They sat down with Goody, and LaFleur said, hey, I think this dude's going to be a big part. I bet Hafley said, hey, this dude's going to play a big role next year. And that's how you kind of mold your roster of anticipating these guys are going to take that next step. Otherwise, what you're doing is just a turnstile. You're constantly plugging in 30 to 32-year-olds, and they're going to be gone the next year, gone the next year, gone the next year. And it's just this big turnstile of talent or lack thereof. So, again, the message I want to send is I don't think Goody is perfect. I don't think Goody is a top 3 GM. I think he's definitely top 10. He may be top 5. That's me personally.
I was going to say top 7. So, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in that range, right? And here's the thing. if these guys take this next step next year, guess what? He's going to fly right up into the top 5. If the Packers find themselves in the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl this year somehow, some way, then we're going to be going, damn, Goody's a genius. And those same fans that were complaining all of a sudden will disappear. And it's just like, okay, let's wait until something else goes bad, and now let's bring it back to the forefront. I just want to say it's okay to disagree with him. You don't have to agree with every move the GM makes. But there is, when he was describing how people reacted to him about what he felt like was a positive, like, oh, okay, this makes sense. McColl's a speed guy. We don't have anybody else on the team that runs a 4.3 40 other than Bo Melton. Well, maybe he can stretch the field and he gives us a punt return guy. And people are negative about that. It's just mind-boggling, man. And telling you how I handle that, life is too damn short. The Cooper DeJean stuff last year just about broke me. It was just like, you cannot sit here and complain about not drafting Cooper DeJean in the second round when he drafted Edgerrin Cooper. Like, you can't have every great prospect on the board. You just can't do it. Yeah. And teams look at things different from, in that regard. So that's the stuff that if all you're going to do is harp on the negative, I don't want to live life like that, man. And I think it's cool to see Ryan. Like, it seems like Ryan's on that team now as well, of look, all right, yeah, this has just gotten ridiculous. People are just wanting to be miserable. And I love what he said, and we'll move on, Jacob. I didn't even plan on talking about this, but I'm glad you brought it up. There was something else he said too, is it's like people are jockeying. They're putting themselves in position that as soon as something goes good, they want to just completely deflate that. Why? Because it makes them look like an idiot because they were wrong in their original assumption. So they lean more toward, I want to be right, as opposed to, hey, let's be positive and maybe this is good for the team. It's just amazing how people are misled to think that. Think of everybody that you know in your life. I guarantee you the people that you enjoy hanging around the most, the people you like the most, are the ones that don't take themselves so serious. Nobody wants to hang around that dude. I told you it was going to happen. Called it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. What you want? You want a damn cookie? Like, cool. Like, nobody's looking at like, oh man, I'm so glad I'm friends with him. He lets me know every time he's right. Weird, right? So anyway.
Yeah, one last comment about this topic from Redmo46, then we can move on here. It says if Goody would just start nailing first-round picks, he'd automatically be a top 5 or top 3, in my opinion. But he nails, he goes on to say, but he nails the underrated moves, though, which are equally important. And I think that that's one thing where I believe it was Too Old for This Again says, like, how many other GMs have had the tenure of Goot and probably will have at least another year, 2 or 3, because he is so good at what he does, especially in the later rounds. The second, it's just basically not the first. That's like this big glaring kind of, that's the catchy headline. That's the tag that everybody wants to say, oh, he can't pick in the first round. But it's like, if that's, it's clickbait. To me, it's just clickbait. And there's validity to it for sure, that he's had guys that maybe didn't work out the way he wished, but I don't know. That's all I got to say about that.
There you go. Zacchaeus Earls in the chat says, I wanted cornerback in the first round, but now I'm not sure. Will Johnson is having injury issues right now. Siobhan Ravel is coming off of an ACL, and Benjamin Morrison's coming off a season-ending injury as well. I think his was a hip there out of Notre Dame. I'm with you, Zacchaeus. That's why it's important, like, how does the board fall? Like, it's going to be hard to pass up on Will Johnson if indeed he is on the board when we pick at 23. Because Will Johnson is so high on the board, he's 12th on the board, right? But what you got to take into consideration is, like, we Jacob, when we broke down that injury history, the thing that sticks out to me was it was multiple types of injuries. It was 4 or 5 different types of injuries with Will Johnson. Yeah. And it's like, you get players like that, and it just seems like something's always wrong. It's not an indictment on them. It's not to try to bash them. They want to be on the football field. We know that. It could be bad luck, but if you have that information in front of you, and there's 2 different prospects, let's say Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle from Texas, is sitting there, and Will Johnson's sitting there. When you look at Kelvin Banks on the draft board, he has no red across the board. To the best of my knowledge, he hasn't had any major injuries. Now, maybe he has, and we haven't uncovered it yet. But that's just a vanilla example of, I'm probably going to go with Kelvin Banks there over Will Johnson, And now if you flip the script and talk about, okay, this is a wide receiver here instead, and he's got the injury issues, but we need a wide receiver. Never draft by need. You set your board up and you build your scouting database. And what I mean by this is you allocate your scouting hours, your man hours, to uncovering who are the prospects that you are most interested in. You set that by need. But when the board's built, you stick to the board, and that's how you end up with Aaron Rodgers when everybody else said, why did they do that? And you end up with Jordan Love when they said, why did they do that? Imagine if we had not drafted Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers isn't on the team right now. Who's our quarterback? Is it Kenny Pickett? Did we draft Kenny Pickett instead, a couple years later? Like who, you know what I'm saying? Like it sucks to hear people kind of Monday morning quarterback in that regard. Like it's easy to look back and go, yeah, we should have taken him. Yeah, these are the best though. I told you we should have took him.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the other 18 that you said they should take too? We're just
right.
not going to mention them. We're just going to mention the one that they missed on, right? It's just weird. It's a weird way to fan for sure. But yeah, I'm on board with you there, Zacchaeus. It's all about just making the smart pick, man, for sure. Smart picks in that regard. Redmo, did we hit this one yet, Jacob? No, we didn't. A lot of people genuinely believe just because you take a wide receiver in the first, that means they'll be ready right away. More likely, maybe, but a rookie is a rookie. See, that's the other thing to take into consideration. You draft a rookie, if you draft a first-round pick, you want them to start. You want them to get playing time, right? So maybe that's why Goody stays away from wide receiver, knowing that within Matt LaFleur's offense, you got to know the choice routes. This isn't just learn every route on the tree. Don't get me wrong. There's wide receivers in the first round that can't run every route on the tree, at least not refined, right? But you've got to be able to pick up the offense. And if they can't pick up the offense quick enough, guess what happens? Your first round pick sitting on the bench because he doesn't know the offense. Boy, that's real helpful, right? So I understand what you're saying there too, Redmo, that the stars have got to kind of align in that regard.
Well,
right?
and I think that's much more of a recent trend in the NFL. Like until you had your Justin Jeffersons, your Jamar Chase, those types of players that really did come in and absolutely reset what it meant to be a rookie starting wide receiver that can just absolutely show out. I mean, it's not common. It's not common at all.
Right. It really isn't. Coach Lynn says Wyatt and Quay may be hits also. Straight from Goody's mouth, and the statistics would suggest it as well. Devontae Wyatt is your best pass rush and defensive tackle. What do they prioritize in Green Bay? Pass rush, right? That's always been the way they've drafted. If there's two players on the board and one is a run stopper and one's a pass rusher, they're going with the pass rusher, hands down, no questions asked. So yeah, they could both still be hits. I'm losing faith in Quay. I'm excited to see him this year because you're going to get a motivated Quay Walker, man. You're going to get a healthier Quay Walker, I hope. And then on top of that, he's playing for a contract. And you're going to get the best version of that player in that regard. And Quay does not come across like the player that's kind of sitting back going, man, I hope it works out for me. He knows his football career is on the line. He's going to come out, ready to fight for that spot, no doubt. Coach Lynn also says we may have nailed the Morgan pick. We have to let things play out. That's the other thing is people that are saying that, oh, well, Morgan was a bust. How do you know he's a bust? He got a shoulder injury in camp, tried to fight through it all year, was splitting starter reps at right guard as a rookie in the second and the back half of the first round. And now all of a sudden, the shoulder injury reemerges because they never truly let it heal. So now he's on IR. What makes you think he's a bust seeing that he was getting split starter reps at right guard? You know what I mean? So that's another one. So I see a lot of stuff in the comment that we're going to cover tonight, so we'll just go ahead and jump into it. I want to get these Patreon questions real quick, Jacob, if that's all right with you. Want to get caught up. Some of them are just comments, not necessarily questions. But Trevor Anderson in the Patreon group, you guys can join that Patreon group, scan the QR code in the upper right. Talking about McMillan not being fast, I will never care about 40 time again after Devontae. He ran a 4.56, a route running trumps 40-yard dash speed every time. If you had to make me choose between someone who's fast that can't run routes or someone that runs routes and has mediocre speed, I'm going with the guy who can run routes because it's such a close game in the NFL that you got to be able to play in that phone booth, especially if you're playing like a boundary X and you run a lot of trips and tray. You want to put them in that phone book with that cornerback. Chances are the quarterback won't have time to take a shot to a speed guy over there if they're playing a lot of split safety, which many teams in the league are right now. You got to be able to win in that phone booth, and that's why when LaFleur came here, he kind of stepped back and said, you know what? Let's play this ISO game. Let's play a little RPO game with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. And boy, did it work, So I think that's a great point. there. Trevor Greg S in the Patreon group says, I'm interested to see how AI is used for player projections. One of the NBA GMs said they are already collecting data to see how accurate AI with player projections, and will likely start using AI as an additional scout. Yeah, I think it's a really cool tool. You just got to know how to use it. It's a big thing, Jacob. You can't listen. It won't fold your underwear for you. You know what I mean? You got to know what to put into the system.
I'm out.
You got to know what to put in the system, how to ask the question. I was showing a business partner of mine today. He's got kind of a mechanical background, loves working on cars. He's just an old car junkie, and he's all get off my lawn, anti-AI. I said, give me a problem you would experience on a vehicle, and he tried to make it as vague as possible because he knew what I was about to do. And finally, he said, a ground fault issue. Bro, I popped in ground fault issue into the robot, tweaked a couple words, and we had an 8-step process on how to troubleshoot every single electric component within a vehicle. And he was like, yeah, that's pretty impressive. It's literally, if you know how to use it, it is really, really
Dude,
cool.
just real quick to that point. My little brother, he lost a dog way too early in its life, and he was really grief-stricken about it, and like to the point where it was consuming him. And he's like, I want to write a book. I want to write a children's book to kind of dedicate it to Maisie, was her name. And he has never, my brother is not an author. He's not an English major. He's nothing. He had AI help him find a publicist, how to create the book, how to make, I mean, I'm talking the whole 9 yards. He got it, the AI helped him get it signed by Amazon and create a contract deal to sell through Amazon. Like he did it in like 2 weeks. And like I said, and it was unbelievable seeing the final product. I wish I could show you. It was like perfect. It looks so professional. It's insane. Like,
yeah. And what you're seeing with some of the content we're creating over at Patreon, and I've gotten great feedback. The DMs are open. People message me in the DMs, and they're loving the content. It's essentially, and we're going to launch the website and everything, but the Patreon website works exactly the same way. And what I'm doing is very carefully combing through information, using AI, and putting together a detailed scouting report of these players. And so when the Packers have somebody on their radar, bang, here's a full scouting report on them, injury history, everything you need to know right there. So over on the Patreon group, we'll show you here in a second how the landing page works. You're going to have articles pretty much on a daily basis that are geared around the Packers. Like when McCole Hardman was signed yesterday, I used AI to comb through and get the most important information about McCole, got it in 5 seconds, put it in format, threw it up on the Patreon group, and you guys have all the information you need on McCole to see what kind of player he is, schematically, deployment, all those things. It's a really cool tool. Moist Butter says, I like the Hardman pickup. What's your take? I think we've kind of covered it. Butter. I'm gonna call you Butter. I don't like a Moist Butter. I can't do it, Jake. You know what I mean? But I think it's a good pickup. I think your team got better by adding him. It didn't get worse. There's no doubt about that. And if Keyshawn's not going to return punts, I didn't like Jaden Reed at punt return. How did you feel about it, Jacob?
I don't like him doing anything special teams wise for a number of reasons. One, I just don't think that he didn't seem comfortable back there. I don't want to risk the injury, and I don't want him feeling like he has to be locked in that position to be a progress stopper of somebody else that could actually really excel.
Right. So now what you can do, if he makes the roster, you got a guy that you could throw a package or two out there where he can stretch the defense, but also he's now returning punts. Jaden Reed don't have to do that. And if I remember correctly, Jaden Reed hurt his ankle on a punt return. I
think
believe.
So.
And he wasn't – when I say he wasn't the same the rest of the year, he got less targets. And I guarantee you that was Matt's like, we need you out there, but let's don't overuse him. Hopefully he can get healed up by the time we get to the playoffs. So I like the pickup personally, especially for what we're anticipating. The price is probably going to be less than $3 million, I would imagine. Anything less than $3 million, no worries with it at all. It'll probably be closer to his last contract with the Chiefs, though, which was less than $2 million. So Randy Cleavers in the Patreon group said, Loveland, you think they will get him if he falls in the draft? We have a pretty good tight end room already. And thank you guys for the Patreon questions. Appreciate it. I'm going to pull up the board here and show you where we got Colston Loveland at. And actually, I won't pull up the board because we've got a scouting report on him on Patreon. We won't spend as much time as we did last night on this, but I'll see if I can pull this up real quick. How would you feel about Colston Loveland to the Packers at 23, Jacob, if he was there?
I wouldn't hate the outcome. I would not agree with the place in which he was selected, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. We just got over talking about how we don't draft on needs, but who's the best player available. I just feel like that at 23, there's got to be multiple players that would help our team immediately with what we need from them that are better players overall than Colston, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And again, Colston Loveland on our draft board, he is sitting in the 15 spot. So when I say I would be perfectly fine with it, and by the way, shout out to Emilio. He's got the captain emojis in here. We're starting that now. I went through and double checked the top 20. So we're going to do it in increments of 20 here and get that down. So Colston Loveland was a team captain at Michigan. He's also already been met with by the Packers, not a top 30 visit, but just, they met, I believe it might've been at the combine where they met with him. So he's on their radar, right? Says Colston Loveland, a tight end from Michigan, is widely regarded as one of the top prospects at his position in the 2025 NFL draft. Below is a detailed scouting report based on college performance, physical attributes, blah, 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 blah. So he's 6'5", right? 245. So you're talking about everything you want in size in a tight end. He was a junior, declared for the draft after 3 seasons, foregoing his final year of eligibility. He's from Idaho, so he's one of them corn-fed boys out there in the Midwest, right? It says Loveland emerged as a key contributor for Michigan, particularly in the 2023 national championship season, and solidified his status as a high-end prospect with consistent production despite playing in a run-heavy offense with inconsistent quarterback play. So you can go through on our Patreon group and read this entire breakdown here, like talks about strengths, athleticism, movement skills. He's a plus-level athlete for his size, blending explosiveness, agility, and fluidity. Receiving prowess. It says a natural pass catcher. Loveland boasts an outstanding catch radius, soft hands, and the ability to adjust to poorly thrown balls. He reduced his drop rate significantly from 2023 at 10% to 2024 at 3.4%. Anything under 5 is pretty solid. So I won't read the entire thing. You guys go check it out. This is another way that you can attack not having that top receiver, Jake.
Well, I was just going to ask, is there any situation where if he is sitting there, all of a sudden, I think I saw a coach, it was in the chat, said, does this mean we're going to run like a ton of 12 personnel? I'd wonder, is there a way that we mix in more 12 than normal, especially with the resurgence or emergence of Josh Jacobs, just hopefully being a battering ram, maybe trying to take a little pressure off of that offensive line that's so young and see if we can become more of like just more of like a battering ram, almost like a Philly or offense. And then is there a way that we take Colston Loveland and maybe even if we're in 11 personnel, that he's like that crazy big slot or maybe a different, just weird type of weapon that people aren't used to seeing anymore. And then maybe we could even get in more 13 personnel. You know what I'm saying? Like, does he give you the ability to maybe be, whereas originally I thought, man, that's going to limit our offense. Could it actually open it up more than we think?
Yeah, it could. And, many people don't know that the Chiefs, when they won the Super Bowl the year before last, I think they led the league in 13 personnel. You think of the Chiefs, you think they're spreading this thing out way wide, right? Like they're going to 3 or 4 wide receivers. No, they had 3 tight ends on the field more than anybody, if I remember correctly. So big 11. Yes, Jacob, says Fred McFarley. It's spot on. That's what we used to call slot bully, right? You put a big bully out there in the slot and watch that nickel go, how the hell am I going to get to the run? So, yeah, Jake Shavink, this is the way. It's just to me, it's not like the only option. If Tet McMillan falls, you can have the conversation. All right, let's take him at 23, or do we pass? But if there's no top receivers there at 23, and you look up and the best player on the board is a tight end in Colston Loveland, yeah, you can shift to 12. There's no doubt about it, because whether you're in 11 or 12 or, I don't want to say 21, it is quite a bit different. Whichever one of those personnel you're in, you understand we're still using the same concepts. It's the illusion of complexity with simplicity at the base. You're still running dagger. Like last year, you're still running wolf. You're still running dog. You're still running those same concepts, slot cross. You're just doing it out of a different personnel. And you may start off in a dub set, right? Like a 12 2x2, and then bring the U over. And now you're in a 3x1, and bang, we're off and running where we can run that concept where we like, where it's really slot cross and dagger on the same side of the field out of a trips or a trace. So there's a multitude of things you can do. And I think that's where Matt LaFleur is really, really underrated in that regard. He doesn't get enough praise. That man can scheme open some wide receivers, boys. There's no 2 ways about that. So, and here you see his weakness, Loveland's weakness is biggest limitation is inconsistent blocking ability. While he gives effort and has decent functional strength, he lacks the mass and play strength to anchor against bigger defenders in line. He struggles to sustain blocks in the run game and can get pushed back by power rushers and pass protection. I don't want him pass protected. See, like that part right there, doesn't make a hill of beans to me. Because
Mhm.
if you go max protect on a specific play, it means you've seen something in the secondary and we're going 99, take a shot, baby. And that doesn't mean the tight end needs to sit there and hold for 3 seconds. That's probably a little play fake, back foot hits, turn that thing loose, Jordan. So, again, there's Colston Loveland, a little breakdown on him over at our Patreon group. So, appreciate everybody that's joined over there. Now, we had some pretty big news today, Jacob, that hit. As we seen it was tweeted out. Actually, that's the wrong one. I want to put the tweet up first for you guys because it's a really cool picture that our boy shared here. So we got this that came across Twitter earlier today. Texas A&M edge defender Shemar Stewart is visiting with the Packers today. He currently sits in the 13 spot on our PTA big board. Here was his Instagram post, right? He just said Lambeau Field. So this means, to the best of my knowledge, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, if you've heard something different, this should be a top 30 visit already in-house. And there's several of them going on across the league right now. There's some that probably have happened that we haven't heard about yet too. But the fact that they had him in there, obviously this was him at the Senior Bowl, just absolutely dominating. He got the full bonus at the Senior Bowl, man. So that's another 5-point bonus. When you look at our draft board, for those of you in the Patreon group who have access to it, what you'll notice is you'll get a couple of different bonuses. You'll get an RAS bonus that'll show a -5 or a -6. You'll get your Senior Bowl and East West Shrine Bowl that will get you another bonus. So when you look at our draft board, if you see a -5, another -5, that should really stick out to you because there's only going to be a handful of players. I'm talking about maybe 10 to 20 players on our entire board that we've got over 400 prospects on right now that'll pop with those two bonuses, and you'll go, okay, they've separated themselves a little bit. It doesn't mean they climb way up our board. I'd rather the board just stay true, but it's just an indicator that, yep, that dude has shown something special. So, again, he was at Lambeau Field earlier today for a top 30 visit, and we did just a little write-up on him here on Patreon, just to give you guys a little snippet. 6'6", 280 to 290 pounds, official measurements pending confirmation at the NFL Combine and Pro Day. You guys probably already have access to all of that. He's from Florida, 5-star recruit out of Monsignor Pace High School. Stewart was a top 10 national prospect in the 2022 class. His dominance in Florida's 4A division, 48 tackles, 15 sacks as a sophomore. And Under Armour All-American status highlighted his career, his elite potential. So you can go check out all of his college production and everything. Jacob, what do you think about Shemar Stewart? Because early on, he was lower on my board, right? And the reason he's raised up is because here's why he was low on the board to start with. PFF grades in 2022, he was 855th at his position. In 2023, he jumped to 333rd. In 24, he jumped to 95th. That's still not like a great grade. What is his grade in 24, Jake?
79.5.
So not horrible, but you'd like to see someone who could potentially be borderline top 10 pick be in the 90s. But again, PFF isn't everything. However, their big board at the end of the college football season had him 19th on the big board, right?
Yeah.
The consensus big board had him 25th. He did get the Senior Bowl bonus as well, the 5-point bonus there. So he dominated the Senior Bowl. Daniel Jeremiah had him in the 27th spot. He actually mocked him to us in one of his mock drafts, I believe. 33rd team had him in 16th, and Dane Brugler had him 9th. And he also scored, to the best of my knowledge. Did he finish with a 10 RAS? I think he did. I'll get your take on him real quick, and I'll look that up just to confirm. But I'm almost positive that he finished with a 10 RAS.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I just don't feel confident in Shemar Stewart. To me, he screams, unfortunately, a current trend with Goody first-round picks. We draft on size, speed, RAS. But when you look at, he doesn't have that much production, man. He has played consistently as far as games and snaps and all that. He's got 6 sacks in his whole college career from 2022 to 2024. He has only 12 hits. Now, granted, he's got a lot of hurries this last year, but before that last year, not a lot at all. And his pass rush win rate isn't terrible with a 12.4%. But his run defense grade is really where he shined. It was an 88.2. Pass rush grade was only a 67.2. And to me, that production is more scary to spend a first round draft pick on him again And I would rather see somebody that's actually shown that he can actually be a crazy disruptor and not just a big body that can run fast.
There you go. Yeah, no, it's a valid point. It's a valid point that the production wasn't there, and that's the PFF grades kind of hold true with that too, right? So yeah, I can understand being hesitant on it. Again, I just explained why our board has them so big. So if you put more stock in PFF grades and production than maybe what a Dane Brugler or Daniel Jeremiah believes, then you probably go in a different direction. But here's the other thing, like Ron Sanville says, yeah, I think it might be wishful thinking. Yeah, that's okay. Another project, you know, I don't like the projects either. I was born in a project. I actually was, but it wasn't a project.
Different, yeah.
Yeah, different projects there. What I want is those players that are kind of ready to go. You know what I'm saying? I don't want those guys. Oh, it's another ball of clay. That's why I was down on Shemar Stewart early, and it's why if they draft him at 23, it would be more than worth it according to our board. However, that is in the back of my mind, like this kind of feels like another LVM project, and we probably need someone more like a, hey, let's just go out there and kick ass day one. Drew D says, I agree, Jacob. Oh, sorry. But I do think it's easier to take the risk in the 20s than the top 15. Yeah, 13 for a risk. I'm with you there, Drew, kind of like what we did with LVN. And again, the board lined up for that one. I wasn't surprised by the LVN pick. The board said, yep, this is a good pick. And I hope he dominates this year, man. I hope he comes out and just turns it on. That would be absolutely awesome. So,
yeah. The other quick comment I want to highlight, and then we can move on to whatever you want. Coach Len says, who is Stewart paired with up at A&M in the first round? I want to pay for the upside. Now, that is a great point because, again, if they were stacked along that D-line, which I think in certain ways they were. So if you look at Shemar Stewart right now, currently he's sitting at 26 on the PFF big board. Just the next edge listed is number 32, Nick Scourton from Texas A&M. He's younger by almost a full year. He's a little shorter, just 5 pounds heavier. Or I'm sorry, lighter, but his grades are a 62.3 and 82.8, and this last year was an 80.1. A little more production, not a ton more production, but quite a bit considering what our other guys' numbers were there, what Shemar's numbers were. So I believe that they also had a pretty decent interior guy that was helping them out. So that to me even scares me a little more about putting so much confidence into a guy like him. I feel like there's other things that you could focus on.
Yeah. And again, I'm all about the board, man. You know, if the best player on the board is an edge defender, take them. I'm good with it. If it's a tackle, take them. I'm good with it. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I look at it there. So that's a great question though, Coach Landon. Thanks you for looking that up, Jacob, because anytime you got two great pass rushers, right? We were much higher. I don't say much higher. We were higher on Byron Murphy than we were Devondre Sweat, I believe. I don't want to misspeak here. We're looking at the board here from last year. We had Byron Murphy as the best lineman, then Jerzon Newton, then Devondre Sweat. And Devondre Sweat, according to PFF, had the much better year than Byron Murphy. So those two guys, the reason I mentioned them is they both played at Texas, right? Yeah, so they were teammates in Texas. So that's a perfect example of is one garnering a bunch of attention and making the other look better than he actually is.
Yeah, so there's also Shamar Turner, their defensive tackle, so that's 3 different people on the Texas A&M defensive line in the PFF's top 50. So that's worth thinking.
Yep. So you got to be aware of that stuff. There's no doubt about it, man. You got to stay in the loop on it. I want to hit something before we move on to some more draft talk. I seen you pop this in. This is really cool. If everybody could confirm, I don't want to call Badger Trio a liar. This sounds too good to be true, man. Is this legit? Because if it is, boy, I just got really excited. It says, so we got updated news on the draft on local TV tonight. Mark Murphy confirmed Lambeau will be open so people can sit in the bowl to watch the draft, and the NFL is hoping for snow for TV factor. We need to do a quick check on that. Somebody in the chat, give me double confirmation. I trust you, Badger Trio. It sounds too good to be true. It really does. You heard anything on it, Jacob?
No, the reason I highlighted it is just so for that very reason. And specifically because I trust Badger Trio pretty much. And he said he heard it on local news, which is, again, more of that to me would make it seem a little more justified. But that would be really cool, man. That would be great.
Yeah, let me just do a quick search here. Lambeau Field Draft Bowl. Let's see what happens here. It's a great podcast in here. Nothing there. I'm not seeing anything on X, man. Unless it just recently happened, right? Could have recently happened. I don't know, but yeah.
Well, maybe file that away in the wishful thinking, but needs to get some confirmation here.
Yeah. Coach Lim, why would they not? See, that's what I said, Coach.
Yeah.
Like, y'all want to hear how big of a geek I am? I sent an email to Mark Murphy going, bro, open the bowl up. Like, what are we doing? This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Open it up. And in that email, I said, also, I don't know if there's any NFL rules. We talked about this before. Why would you not open the bowl up for Packer fans to watch away games on the TV?
You could make so much money.
Yeah. So he probably said, this, I can tell by the way this guy types, he's a redneck, and threw the email away, right? That's the way it works. So anyway, let us know if anybody hears anything else on that. And it could have, like I said, it could have just dropped tonight. But there was some other news that hit. Man, this sucks. It sucks bad. But it wasn't like it caught everybody off guard other than us. Obviously, the information was shared, I'm guessing, at the Combine. And you keep an eye on the chat for me, Jacob, on that regard with the bowl there at Lambeau. So you guys know a top linebacker whose name isn't Jalen Carter on our board. I'm not as high on Jalen Carter. He's pretty far down our list. But Alabama linebacker Jihad Campbell reveals he had shoulder surgery that could affect his draft position. And so linebacker Jihad Campbell from Alabama revealed to the SEC network that he had surgery for a torn labrum in his left shoulder following the NFL scouting combine. Now, we got, listen, injuries can take longer than others. It might be more serious, less serious, but this is just kind of a very vague description of this injury. The expected recovery time for such an injury can vary depending on the severity of the tear and individual factors in rehabilitation. For football players, a torn labrum typically requires 6 to 8 months of recovery before returning to full activity. This timeline suggests that Campbell could be sidelined until approximately September to November of 2025, assuming his surgery occurred around early March 2025. However, this is a general estimate, and his actual return would depend on his progress in rehab and medical clearance. He clearly sits as the 22nd prospect on our PTA big board and the top linebacker in this year's draft, but will most likely fall due to missing time for rehab this coming season. Jake Shavink, I seen in the chat earlier, he may have already dipped. If you didn't dip, Jake, anybody else who got information on this, does it sound like it's going to be a quick recovery, or do we think he's going to be out for a while? Because this is the best information I could find earlier. Jacob, what's your take on it, man? It sucks because Jihad Campbell is one of those guys I'd be like, he's on the board and it makes sense. Pull the trigger.
Yeah. Gosh, if this causes him to fall past a point where Goody and them did not expect him to even be close to available, I wouldn't mind it, but I just know that can you imagine the headlines if all of a sudden we take another linebacker in the first round who's hurt, who couldn't even start playing until maybe possibly week 4 through 8? I just feel like Goody's like, I'm not doing, are you guys insane? Like, or unless we did some sort of trade back scenario and he still falls. I mean, there's Shavink.
Yeah. Shavink says, I don't imagine he plays until like November, December, if at all. See, that was when I seen the time frame, I was thinking they probably just listen, it's totally different injuries, but I immediately thought of Jalen Smith, the Cowboys drafted in the second round. He was dealing with that horrible knee injury, ended up having drop foot, I think it was, like nerve damage and stuff. They took a chance in the second, but he had to sit out the first year. The next year, he came out and played, and obviously he was nothing near the player he was in college or high school. He was the top linebacker in the country, if I remember correctly, when Notre Dame signed him, or he enrolled at Notre Dame. So it kind of feels like one of those, and I'm with you, Jacob. I think the fans will burn the house down if they draft somebody like that. So
it kind of reminds me what happened with poor Jonathan Brooks. Poor guy came in the league, wasn't fully healed, ends up tearing an ACL again. I mean, red shirt in basically 2 years. I just don't feel like that is a smart move for us in the first.
I'm seeing the comments in the chat that it's snowing in Green Bay, so let's just go ahead and fix that for y'all. There we go. We got snow in Green Bay now. All right, we're good to go. So, yeah, anything else on Jihad Campbell here, man, before we move on? I thought that was interesting.
No, and it's kind of weird because I liked him less when I first started to get to know him, and then I kind of started getting really excited about the prospect and what that could mean about solidifying that linebacker room. And now I've kind of completely fallen off of that again. And just because of the injury as well, but also that progression, he hasn't graded out the best throughout college. Definitely not terrible, but I just feel like it's less and less of a fit as we get closer to the draft.
Yeah, I agree. And just to bounce back a touch here on the Shemar Stewart conversation, here is why some people were going, man, if the production was that bad, why are they falling in love with him? Here's the RAS. So it is a 10.00. His size, 6'5", 267. That scored him a good composite size grade. His explosion grade, elite. A 40-inch vertical.
That's a lot.
At 267 pounds, 6'5". Broad jump of 10.11. That scored a 9.96. And then his composite speed grade, he didn't do the agility testing to the best of my knowledge, but composite speed grade was elite. 40-yard dash, 4.59 40. And then a 20-yard split of 2.66, 10-yard split of 1.58. So the strength in his 40-yard dash is, if you had to pick one, would be the 10-yard split to the top end speed. The 20-yard split was the weakest part of it, scoring a 9.55. But still, it's just a fraction off there. So he's a freak. He's a physical freak, man. So yeah, I give it a 10, a freaking 10.
Billy Bob.
I see what you did. We need that sound bite. Let me put that down. We
There you go. Got to get that one. That's important. Again, this just seems. I think Jake said it earlier. That's like this. Of course, he's meeting with the Packers. The guy's got a 10 RAS. He's 6'6", like 300 pounds. Of course, he's meeting with them. But I don't. Here, Jake, really, just literally right here. So I remember the first description I heard about Shemar Stewart back in the fall. I immediately said he's a Goody guy.
So true, man.
Yeah. So, again, I just don't want to have a ball of clay that's in theory a freak. I mean, clearly he has an RAS of 10. He's an athletic freak, but I want a football player. That's what I want.
Yeah. That's very well said, man. Very well said. So Shemar Stewart, again, to the best of my knowledge, the very first top 30 visit the Packers have taken or had in this year. So let's move on to some other news that was shared here from our buddy Justin M_NFL over on X. Just getting some more information out to us of guys that the Packers may be interested in. He said Gerald Tank is the nickname. Christian Lichtenhan, does that look right? Lichtenhan. Hey, make me want to drink a beer there. Is among my favorite underrated offensive tackles in the 2025 NFL Draft. 36-inch arms on him. It says Lambeau standout, garnered interest from 49ers, Packers, Jets, Bills, Colts, and Eagles. So just someone else who's kind of on the radar here a little bit you want to keep an eye on. I'm trying to think of where we had him on our board. I'll look at that real quick. You got anything on him at all, Jacob? Or
no, I can't find him anywhere right now.
We've got him
Draft Buzz, which usually
we've got him fairly low on our board. I've got him in the 255 spot, it looks like. The Packers obviously met with him. PFF 22 grade he was 430th at his position. He jumped to 323 in 2023. Say that 3 times fast. And then in 2024, he jumped all the way to 20th highest grade at his position. So a pretty solid year, evidently, in 2024. Now, the PFF big board had him 268 at the end of the year. And Consensus Big Board had him at 230. He's not on any of the other lists. Did not have an RAS for him yet as well. So just a player to kind of keep an eye on there. Again, that our buddy Justin M had put out on it. So go ahead. What you got, man?
No, I found him on PFF. Pass blocking grade at 86.4, gap grade of 70.7, zone grade of 77.4. Now, obviously, Oregon State. I mean, he graded out real well from a game-to-game basis. Worst game he ever had was against Air Force of a 58.6, but really did well. Pure left tackle. Played all 3 seasons at left tackle. The last 2 years, over 800 snaps each. Did not grade out very well up until this last year, so that might be an issue there. PFF has him ranked at 0 inches tall. He's 329, and they don't know his age, so he's clearly a little bit of a more unknown prospect there.
All right, let's see here. Mike Hebring just said President/CEO Mark Murphy and NFL officials suggest a desire to
I think it's leverage the iconic stadium.
All right, leverage the iconic stadium fully, with comments indicating excitement about showcasing Lambeau Field prominently. So did he say that about opening the bowl, or are they just throwing the idea around? Or wish Tim was here. Tim would know. Tim's got the load. Tim would go over and knock on the door. Hey, Mark, what the hell y'all planning on doing over there, bro? What's going on here? So, man, it sounds too good to be true, but hopefully it happens. All right, so we got another.
Fred, real quick, says Tank is cool, but Buckets is a far stronger name.
It really is, man. God, I love it. Another player the Packers met with, one of three teams to spend extensive time with Syracuse edge Fadil Diggs at his pro day. So he seems to be on the Packers' radar a touch. We put a little report together. Shout out to Easton Butler for sharing that information that the Packers showed interest in that. Just a little kind of composite on him. 6'5", 260 is strengths. He's got an explosive first step, strong hands, versatile, can play multiple defensive roles, high motor. 2024 stats, 14 tackles for a loss, 7.5 sacks, notable game-sealing sack versus UNLV in overtime. Athleticism, damn, Jacob, 4.57 40-yard dash, bro.
Jeez.
That's pretty wild. Now, weaknesses, it says needs refinement and technique, inconsistent against the run, struggles to finish tackles at times, play recognition can improve. Draft projection is day 3, rounds 4 through 6. NFL Outlook, potential rotational defender with development. What do you think about Fadil Diggs here? It looks like he's going to be somewhere there on day 3, I would imagine.
I mean, that sounds like my type of player, and if it's anywhere past the 5th or 6th, I totally would be willing to take a stab at him. Pass rush grade of a 83.2, run defense grade of a 65.7. Clearly didn't have his grade of a season doing the run defenses he probably wished he did. True pass set rush grade is a 75.2 and a pass rush win rate of 15.1%. But then there's that glaring area there where it says the run stop rate is below optimal at 4.2%. But you talk about somebody he's had fairly amount of success. Never had a double-digit sack season, but got close this last year with 8 sacks. Decent amount of hits. Honestly, I would have liked to see a little more production out of him, but you look at that size again. If you can mold the guy with his size into being a little more efficient with what he does, I think that's a great 6th or 7th round pick there.
You know who this kind of reminds me of, just on the surface, not from a comp standpoint, but just kind of the situation of being a day 3 with that kind of size, that kind of athleticism. Jake Shavink says Diggs has a 92nd percentile 10-yard split. And
That's
Fred
crazy.
McFarley said, let me translate that for you. That's meat missile traits right there, ladies and gentlemen. So it kind of feels like a JJ Enagbare, you know? JJ Enagbare had kind of those I don't want to say high level traits, but he was a very long dude. He's got the size, all that, and obviously had the explosiveness too to a certain extent. So that would be that'd be interesting. Jake Shavink said, also fun fact: 2023 Texas A&M defense had Diggs, Nolan, and Stewart.
Wow.
How did they not go further, Jake? That's crazy. That's crazy. And they are paying them boys down in Texas. They were paying them boys before they were allowed to pay them boys down there at Texas A&M. I'm just telling you right now. I listen to a lot of SEC talk down here, and boy, oh boy, they spill the beans. There's no doubt about it. So Fred McFarley says, reminds me of KGB, Clay. Yeah, kind of that physical freak, right? I remember KGB back in the day. He was a lot of fun to watch on the football field, no doubt. Let's see here. Andy Monday, which edge players are just pass rush only? I know those guys aren't top rushers, but who knows if we'll blitz more this year. KC blitzed a lot. Philly almost never. Which edge players are just pass rush only? I would venture to say the majority of them are, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Those edge defenders. So we got Emilio joining us now. Came in here late.
How many times are you going to come to my press conference late?
Thank you. What would you like to? Would you like to apologize to the class, Emilio?
I would definitely like to apologize. Sorry about that. First day of mowing yards.
I'd like to take this second to apologize to absolutely nobody. How was your day, man?
Good. First day of mowing, training and everything. So we a little slower, but got through the 14 yards and we're good, man.
Not bad. We did 10 today. and I'm thinking, I don't know how I'm going to be doing 22 here pretty soon.
I'm thinking I need to be drinking more water already. It was only got up to 80 today. So
exactly. Hey, so we got the news that Shemar Stewart visited the Packers today, top 30 visit. We kind of talked about him a little earlier in the year. Obviously he's a physical freak. He's 13 on our board. But as Jacob pointed out, other people pointed out, man, the PFF grades and the production are pretty low. It's just kind of that, hate to say it, but another ball of clay. What would you think about them taking Shemar Stewart at 23?
I know we've been talking about it. I know Jacob's still looking for that kiln downstairs, and I don't know if we have one in Lambeau. We're still working on it, but it's dude, if he pays off, like if you pull the trigger and it pays off, we're the smartest people ever. And if it doesn't, why did you take another freak that didn't pan out?
Exactly.
But do I think Goody would do it? Probably. I think he would pull the trigger on that.
We're going to get you a jersey made, and it's going to say the Glover Lover on the back of it. All right?
Glover, I barely even know her.
Hey, that was pretty good. I'm proud of you. Look at that. So you guys know we've been talking quarterback, right, a little bit, and that's going to drive this draft. Listening to Greg Cosell rave over Shuck earlier today out of Louisville.
I'm telling you, bro, four degrees.
Yeah. He said that Shuck is his QB2. When I could hear him talking him up, and I've listened to Greg Cosell for several years now, right? And I could hear him talking him up, and I'm waiting for the but. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, but he's really good here. But he said, man, this is my QB2. I immediately thought he's got him over Shedeur Sanders. That's what that comes down to, right? He's got Cam Ward number 1. He says, elite level traits. Shedeur Sanders in the right system could be a great starting quarterback, right? But with Tyler Shuck, he was like, when you stand next to this kid and watch him throw the football and you turn on the tape especially, like this dude processes like almost elite. And he said today on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, he said, just to follow up on my Tyler Shuck comments, you could imagine had a lot of people reach out to me about it. He said people in the NFL reached out and said, yeah, when you stand next to this kid and watch him throw a football, you would understand. People would understand exactly what you're talking about. So, I mean, when you hear that kind of, praise over a quarterback from Greg Cosell, I have a hard time believing he's not going to be a first-round pick. I don't know. Maybe I'm way off base here. I want to know what Jake Shavink thinks in the chat, too. Do you think Tyler Shuck – I think it is Tyler Shuck, right? I know his last name's Shuck.
Yeah, Shough.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I used to call him Shoe and Shao and everything else, so evidently Shuck. So what do you think about that? Do you think he's got a legit shot to be in the first round above Shedeur Sanders? That's pretty crazy.
That is pretty crazy. At that point, we could be talking about 4 going in the first, Clay. I mean, someone might take here you go, Coach Lynn, right there, called it out. Thank you for the number. Milrow ran a 4.38.
We're getting to that next.
I mean, so talk about, what are you looking for as a team? You're looking for, someone that's, kind of ready to handle it. When you see Shuck throw it, maybe it's like you saw Rodgers out there the first time. He's a bigger body, can kind of spin it. The numbers are there for him. He had a PFF in 22, a 136. 23, we didn't have a grade. I'm not sure if that's an injury or not. We're going to have to look. 24, he was 21. PFF Big Board 177. What's bringing him down? Consensus had him at 308. But 33rd team had him in their top 100 at 91, and Dane Brugler had him at 59. So that's a guy that almost, I would almost guarantee him gone by the third, no matter what, right? And I think someone's going to pull the trigger on him fast. First is a possibility, Clay.
Yeah, so the grade is 103.5 on our board, right? So let's say Daniel Jeremiah has him just outside the top 50. Let's say he's got him at 51, okay? Then he's going to jump to probably around 75th, something like that. Would be his grade of 75, which would raise him up. That would take him from 136, right?
That'd bring him up into the 90s-ish on our board. He'd be about 115-ish.
Mm-hmm. So, again, we can't justify him being a first-round pick according to our board.
Right.
Boy, when you hear Greg Cosell say that, I think he's 6'5".
Because we still haven't put that bonus in there. He'd get another -5. He'd be climbing into the top 100, I would think, if you get Greg Cosell's in there and DJ's on there. So,
Jacob, what do you think about Tyler Shuck, man? It was wild hearing Greg Cosell rave over him.
I mean, he's definitely somebody that 6'5", 225. He is one of the oldest prospects in the class and is extreme. It says an extensive injury history, but his size and arm talent are adequate enough to earn him a shot as an NFL backup. That's interesting because they look at his grades this last year. He's got an 87 passing grade, an intermediate grade of 92.1, a deep grade of 91.8, a no pressure grade of 91.6, and then the pressure grade is 62.6. So he hasn't had a single bad game. Worst game he had all season was against Clemson, which is probably understandable. He had a 64.6, which isn't complete booty cheeks. He's being trended to the quote unquote to the Pittsburgh Steelers, also Dallas, also New England. So I could see him going, Emilio, somewhere around that third or fourth range. Another guy that's right below him, who is also 6'5", 223, but is a whole year younger, is Curtis Rourke out of Indiana.
Yeah.
Graded out real well for most of his career. Do you guys see anything? They're saying he projects like a backup, but with the potential to grow into a spot starter. And what do you guys have him on the board?
I'm gonna give Tyler Shuck a 5-point bonus on the Senior Bowl because Jake said he was QB1 during Senior Bowl week for sure. I think it was Prince in there too. Shuck got great reviews from the Senior Bowl, so we'll go ahead and give him a bonus there for that, just so we'll remember. Okay, he had a great Senior Bowl. Go ahead. What were you going to say, Emilio, answering this question?
I just needed that name again, Jacob. I'm sorry.
Curtis Rourke from Indiana.
Curtis.
Almost graded out exactly like Shock, but with just about a year younger.
He was. Can I not find him? Okay, we got him at 124. Indiana. He was East-West Shrine. The dude graded out real well, pretty consistently. 2022 had him 3rd overall. PFF 23 had him 82nd, and 24 had him 18th. Big board again, kind of dinging him 143 for PFF, 231 for consensus. No other bonuses from DJ 33rd or Dane, but he's higher right now, already higher than Tyler Shuck. So that's it's something you just got to keep in mind. I think he'll kind of close in with the Greg Cosell bonuses, Shuck will, but there's as we're coming in closer to it, it's tough. It's kind of wild to see how the quarterbacks are slowly climbing up. You're starting to hear a little bit more talk about it
every
time.
year, man.
We had 6 go last year that we were like, all right, only 4 are going to go, maybe 5, 6, 7 go, whatever. We had 2 this year. Only 2 were guaranteed. We could be pushing 3, 4, 5 at this point. The talk is going to happen.
Yeah. So again, man, it's why we say as soon as we start the draft process, there's 2 drafts every year, quarterback draft and the NFL draft. Because I'm telling you, man, these quarterbacks, all of a sudden you look up and go, I thought we only had 2 first-rounders. People will overpay. They will overreach.
We'll have to come up with a number, Clay, and I want to put them on a separate sheet and just do the quarterbacks up a rank, whatever we're going to give them. Just everybody gets that number to get them up a rank. I want to kind of see where that says.
Someone else who turned heads today. Now, listen, keep in mind, our board was already set. And you guys know, first of all, let me say this. Jackson Dart, it was like Greg Cosell was dipping his toe in the water like he wanted to say this dude's solid, but he kept pulling back a little bit. So he didn't get he's not going to get the Greg Cosell bonus, but he was definitely, I think he would have been like QB3 or QB4 probably, according to Greg Cosell, just kind of reading between the lines. But Jalen Milroe today helped themselves. Now, you guys know we've got Milroe over Jackson Dart before the combine stuff or before the pro day stuff, right? We've got him in the 57 spot. We got Jackson Dart in the 73 spot. Well, today, obviously, Jalen Milroe turned heads. A 4.37 is what's mentioned here. I heard other people say 4.38. Someone else said 4.43. It's amazing how so many different numbers can get reported from quote-unquote professionals, but here we are. That blew me away. I thought he would run a 4.540. When they said 4.37, I went, whoa. So, again, one of those quarterbacks that going into the year was highly rated, and as the year went on, he definitely dropped. Like if you guys go to I'm trying to think of what it's called. There's a Twitter handle that shows the trend of where people are mocking people, and Jalen Milroe has sank all year long to a 3rd-round pick. He started around a 1st-round pick at the end of the college or at the beginning of the college football season. So what do you guys think? You think this is going to help Jalen Milroe, this 4.37? Do you think that GMs will still kind of hold off? Because, again, I've got him on our board as QB3, I believe, right? Yeah, I've got him as QB3.
Yep.
So
I think that's totally a possibility. I think he has an elite skill, and it's speed and running. I mean, you can kind of teach, throwing technique if we need to shore that up or whatever. But that is hard to teach right there. I mean, you can't really teach that speed, and you can't teach that feel. When he's got the ball in his hands when he's running. I think that's someone's going to take a chance on him, it's going to be more than like the Malik Willis thing, right? Where he was supposed to go in the first round, drop to the third. Right now, they're saying Milroe is supposed to go in the third. I mean, first is looking more and more likely. It really is.
Yeah. Jacob, Tom Pelissero actually tweeted this out today as well. Former Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe had dinner tonight in Tuscaloosa with Steelers coach Mike Tomlin, GM Omar Khan, and quarterbacks coach Tom Arth ahead of his pro day. Per source, Pittsburgh, which continues to explore all options at the quarterback position, owns the number 21 pick in April's draft. So do you think Pittsburgh's eyeing him for 21? Or do you think it's more of a, hey, second or third round, if he's there, we might pull the trigger there? What do you think, man?
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. It doesn't seem to quite fit what Mike Tomlin and his play style is to just get some scrambling quarterback kind of guy. But Drew D in the chat says 4.37 is 40. 4.3740 is Lamar Jackson time, isn't it? Lamar Jackson had a 4.34. So that is pretty apt comparison there. I would argue that Lamar has a pretty underrated cannon. I do think he can throw that ball in there and probably has a little more technical skill at this point. But like Emilio said, I think that may be why that you got yourself the GM at the meeting and the quarterback's coach, Tom Arth, there, because he wants to see probably like, what can I get out of this guy? Is this a ball of clay that's just like you talked about, Emilio, that's going to sit outside of the kiln and never get used? Or is this something we can actually throw together and make ourselves a real nice piece of pottery?
I know this, Emilio.
Put it on the ticket.
When college football dropped in July, you did not want to face Jalen Milroe.
You did not want to play against Alabama. No, sir. No, it was a cheat code. And it's not like the dude can't throw the ball. You know what I mean? Like, I know I keep saying he's an elite speed and elite runner, but he can spin the rock. That's not the problem. Maybe we need to maybe it's, pre-snap, post-snap, accuracy, attention, all those things. But like Jacob's saying, that's why they get paid. I mean, you got a quarterback coach for a reason. You got a teaching coach for a reason. He's in college going through school. Maybe he's not working on his footwork every single second of the day. Once he gets drafted by a team, that's all he's going to be worried about, right? Get him on the band, get him around the cones, do a Jordan, that video we watched of Jordan Love the other day, drop back, get on the run, throwing it, just practice repetitions. He could be good, man. He really could.
Yeah, Jake Shavink says Milroe's game against Georgia was probably the best game of any quarterback prospect last season. He went on to say Milroe throws a deep ball so well. He really does. He throws a deep ball better than the shallow cross. Like it's amazing. Wonder what team has two guys who win vertically very well. Whispers, Pittsburgh. There you go. Could you imagine Jalen Milroe at quarterback? Now imagine this. Let me paint you a picture here, boys. DK Metcalf on one side, George Pickens on the other. Aaron Rodgers is your starter. Jalen Milroe gets to sit a year behind Aaron Rodgers and learn how to play.
Yeah.
It sounds like a bad idea, doesn't it?
I think you're almost selling him a little short too, Clayton. He has a 78.3 passing grade. The deep grade obviously shines. It's a 93.1. No pressure grade at 88.7, but the intermediate grade is a 90.7. Sorry.
Intermediate, you said. What's his short? Does it show a short there?
It does not show a short at the one I'm looking at right here. But I mean, he's definitely graded out very well too against in big games like Jake was talking about. I mean, guys, and that's 2 years in a row of having solid 13 games in a season, grading out 88.7 and 23, and then 87.4 this last year. So
right, and for a guy that's running the ball that much consistently out there through pain, whatever.
Yeah.
For Alabama, it's not like he's playing against, they're not playing against scrubs. So he's battle tested at least. I think you can definitely take a chance on that talent.
Yeah. The big thing about Milroe too, I'll just say this: any interview you've seen him in, this dude, you want him on your football team.
Right.
Like, remove the on the field play. He's everything. To see him wait for his teammates even when they're losing in the tunnel going into halftime, waiting for his teammates. He's the last one in, giving everybody. It's just the post game interviews. Nick Saban absolutely loved that kid. Again, I want to see him do good. I want to see him succeed at the NFL level for sure. Tell you somebody else I want to see succeed. You guys see this video right here of our boy Nate Hobbs working out earlier today? Check this out. I'm gonna mute it because it's just a lot of all those videos. Sounds like
Jacob
one of the old Japanese karate films. You know what I mean? Here, let's crank it. You guys tell me if you hear the same thing. Here we go. Here's Nate Hobbs. We'll mute it here in a minute because I want you to focus on the footwork here in a second.
Let him knock him on. Yep, good. Get you one.
Ooh.
Knock him on. Knock him on now. Knock him on now. Knock him on now. Knock him on now. Knock him. Good eyes now. Oh, yo. Knock him. Knock him on. Eyes. Knock him on. Knock him. Yes. Oh.
All right, let's mute it. It's distracting. Look at the feet. Look at the feet, boys.
I like the footwork, man.
Yeah, no, dude. And shout out to Bobby the Alien. Hopefully he's not really an alien, but Bobby the Alien at OP Tick Composure for tweeting this out. I think he got it off his Instagram, off of our boy Nate Hobbs' Instagram. But the footwork looks good, boys. Looks really good.
It looks good.
Go ahead, Jacob.
No, I was just gonna say. I'm pretty sure I know what you're gonna say. That he has that, like, he seems like he's never out of position and he's good at the stab arm.
That's literally where I was going with it. I don't know who I saw it on. I want to say it was Coach Haddad. I'm pretty sure he put up a clip of like that the best preparation, like for a corner. If you're throwing that left arm, you can't have both feet stationary. You got to be able to stab and jab, and you can't throw two hands out, or else you're completely out of position, right? So keep him at bay, throwing that one punch arm, inside arm. But he's able to. I love how he's able to get back and forth. He's in a phone booth right now. And able to handle it. Turn on the routes, little whip route there. But the quick punch, either hand, left, right. I like that he's able to go, both sides.
Yeah, Coach Lynn said he reminds me of Sullivan in size, and I love Fred McFarley here. He said, "Coach Lynn, thoughts? Let us know what you think here, Coach. You know what to look for here in technique. Obviously, having a background working with wide receivers and DBs. To me, it looks. I mean, the feet and like somebody said on grass, like." You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You don't see one slip. Look at the balance.
Is he wearing cleats? I don't think he's wearing cleats. Is he?
That's what I was wondering too. I couldn't really tell.
Just wearing Nike flats.
That's kind of what it looks like. Maybe he's got a little.
That'd be even more impressive, honestly. Because if you have that kind of balancing control, you're not getting over your skis. That's it. That's.
Yeah, too old for this. What's a phone booth? I'm too young. I thought you were too old.
Tell you what.
I smell a fraud. All right, so little Nate Hobbs talk for y'all there. Thought that was pretty cool. Let's move on to the other topic, and we'll get ready to wrap up. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, everybody's still awaiting his decision on whether he's going to play for the Vikings, the Steelers, the Giants, whoever it's going to be. I thought this was cool. ML Football tweeted out, just in legendary NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers was named Philanthropist of the Year in California. Aaron has donated millions of dollars to aid wildfire recovery. Quote, "I'm just trying to do my best to help out. I've been really blessed in this life, and my goal is just to give back." So I thought that was pretty cool. He getting kind of respected around the league for that. He's always been one of those dudes that hasn't talked about what he's done, and people would bring it up. Family members would bring it up. If you guys don't know why he had a falling out with his brother Jordan, go look that up, and I think you go, yeah, I understand why he's pissed now. Makes sense. But he's a good dude. I know the fallout there with some of the fans at the end was ugly. But here is the latest on Aaron. Tom Pelissero said the Vikings have rejected multiple trade calls on J.J. McCarthy, telling other teams they're moving forward with him as their quarterback, sources say. The team plans to add a veteran, but they're not pursuing Aaron Rodgers at this time. McCarthy now enters the offseason at QB1. So you see that and go, that's it, right? Okay, cool. Aaron's not going to Minnesota. Then I think Diana Rossini actually tweeted, and let's just take a look here and see if there's anything on this one, said the Vikings have strongly considered and will continue to monitor Aaron Rodgers as an option, but they're not ready to commit at this point in the offseason per sources. They understand this could lead to him signing elsewhere or retiring. J.J. McCarthy's spring will be key. So what's your all's take? To me, it feels like Aaron's not going to Minnesota. I think that's good news as a Packer fan.
I think he still could be playing a little weird long game. I still think it's more likely that he's going Pittsburgh. I think there's a better chance he goes to Minnesota than New York. Mm-hmm. I do feel that.
Yeah, I could see that.
That's where I was getting to too until this stuff came out. But maybe I'm reading too much into this, But no, I'm sorry.
No, I think it's always about Lions season. are you going to take what they're saying as true? I think that, I mean, Vikings is a possibility, but I, like Jacob was saying, that would just be the worst outcome. I really would rather him go to Pittsburgh, or the Giants. It's just, that front office is kind of in shambles, man. So
it's dumpster fire.
I mean, if they're going to be up there saying, I'm going to not sleep at night if Saquon runs all over us, and then Saquon proceeds to run all over them and the rest of the league, you guys blew it for us. So, I just want to see him spin it one more time, right? Let's have one good last year, spin it, do whatever you can, hang him up, and come back and hang the jersey.
I was just going to say, Emilio, imagine actually being able to support Rodgers, being in the AFC, playing with an old coach that he respects, that probably maybe is on the last of his legacy. If he could go out there with a couple guys that are absolute deep ball studs, maybe a revamped running game with a good defense for once, that to me, I'd like to sit there and not have it affect me. And if we go to the freaking, imagine the worst case scenario is that you get a Packers-Steelers rematch where Aaron Rodgers is now playing for the Steelers. I mean, can you write a better story than that?
That would be
versus the opposite script where he follows Brett Favre, kind of lulling, into the back 40 of his career / life, and he goes there for maybe 1 year. We have to play him. It's ugly. It's dramatic. There's a bunch of drama. I would much rather read the Choose Your Own Adventure novel that I listed.
Exactly, because you would think Rodgers is a guy. Do you think he really wants to follow the exact footsteps of Brett? I mean, he doesn't want the same exact legacy down to the T. That's not. I mean, I don't see Rodgers as that kind of dude. I love your idea. Let's get him with Tomlin. How much longer is Tomlin going to be coaching? Is he going to want to build up a brand new quarterback again? Does he got another 3, 4, 5 years to coach up the Steelers and, always have a winning record and all those things? Yeah, I would take a chance on a veteran that, you have respect for.
No. Yeah, all great points. I know this, man. If he signs with Pittsburgh and they end up playing the Packers in the Super Bowl for that rematch, my brother being a big Steelers fan his whole life, I think I might have to take the iPad over to the Memorial and just hang out with old Bub and watch that game.
That would be.
Because he really liked Aaron Rodgers a lot too. He was like, man, I really like that quarterback of y'all's. You know what he said too? It's funny too. Brett, friend of the show, obviously, love Brett Favre, but he was like, oh, Brett got too big for his britches, didn't he? I like this young kid Rodgers. Now everybody's going, Aaron got too big for his britches. Right. Funny how that works. So, all right, last topic. We got about 3 or 4 minutes. We may go over just a couple. You guys remember we talked about the off the field issues or the rumors around James Pierce Jr. I think we would all agree there was nothing there, right? They said that he was a little intense, I guess, seemed a little angry on the football field, and he got caught driving without a license, whoop-de-doo. So that seemed to be the main thing around the James Pierce Jr. stuff, that and rumors that he might not be a team player. We know it's Lion season. But the other one is Mike Green, and they seem like a lot more serious allegations. Now, the reason we're talking about this, we're not trying to spread gossip. This is a part of the draft evaluation. We've got him in the 18 spot. There's a legit shot he could be on the board when the Packers pick at 23. So let's see if we can prepare ourselves and come away with a decision tonight to go, hey, would we be willing to draft Mike Green? Okay, so we went to Grok on this one and asked, hey, give me a breakdown on the timeline, right, and the allegations. Here's what it says. Below is a detailed report on Mike Green's character concerns as he enters the 2025 NFL Draft. Green, a standout edge rusher from Marshall University, has emerged as one of the top prospects in his class after leading the FBS with 17 sacks in the 2024 college football season. However, his rise to prominence has been accompanied by off-the-field questions stemming from 2 separate sexual assault allegations, one from high school and another tied to his departure from the University of Virginia in 2022. This report compiles available information from reputable sources, evaluates its implications for his draft stock, and considers how NFL teams might approach these concerns. So, first allegation, all right, and this is the timeline and everything. High school allegation details Mike Green, originally from Williamsburg, Virginia, faced a sexual assault accusation during his time at Lafayette High School prior to enrolling at the University of Virginia in 2021. Specific details about the incident, such as the date or circumstances, remain limited in public reporting. Green has stated that an investigation took place and that he was cleared of wrongdoing. Green's response at the NFL Scouting Combine on February 26, 2025, Green addressed this allegation, asserting that it was investigated and resolved in his favor. He emphasized that he has no issue discussing it with NFL teams, framing it as a non-issue in his mind because he knows who he is and he knows the truth. So evidently cleared of all wrongdoing, according to this, right? I see Emilio grinning, so I'm telling him what's he seeing in the chat. But let's keep it moving here. Here is the University of Virginia allegation and departure. It says in August of 2022, while Green was a redshirt freshman at Virginia, an anonymous report of sexual assault was made against him, according to the Charlottesville Police Department. They were notified on August 29th, 2022 of an alleged incident that occurred 3 days earlier on West Main Street in Charlottesville. No injuries, damaged property, or stolen goods were reported, and further details about the investigation's outcome remain unclear in public records. Green was suspended from the Virginia football team shortly after, with head coach Tony Elliott stating in September 2022 that Green was, quote, no longer active with the program. Green subsequently transferred to Marshall University ahead of 2023 season. And it says context at Virginia. Green noted that he had signed a zero tolerance policy with Virginia due to the earlier high school allegation, which may have heightened the university's response to the anonymous report. He claimed he was not formally questioned by authorities about the incident and that he chose to leave Virginia for a fresh start rather than fight to stay, despite believing he could have remained if he wanted to. Green's response during the Combine press conference, Green denied the allegation. I've done nothing wrong. He described the situation as frustrating, particularly because he feels portrayed as, quote, somebody that he's not, but maintained confidence that it wouldn't derail him, his draft prospects. What's your all's take on it? Because, I mean, there's literally zero evidence, right? Zero anything. There you go. Jake Shavink. Apparently NFL teams have the private reports of both. So there you go. We'll know right there, right? They're private reports. They haven't been out in the public. If a team takes him early, then we know there was nothing to the reports, right? There may be something in those private reports that they go, holy cow, we're not touching this dude. What do y'all think, man? What's your thoughts on what we uncovered here?
I'm a little torn because part of me wants to keep the absolute respect that I believe that the Packers organization has completely kind of been on the straight and narrow, just being a high character type of city, a type of organization, making sure that guys that are being brought into the community deserve to be pillars in that community and not take that opportunity for granted. On the other side, I look back at players like Brenton Cox Jr., who literally was at one point a first round standout that could have been drafted and then all of a sudden falls completely out of all 7 rounds and ends up being a UDFA and asked to basically take his career, pull it up from the absolute garbage heap and say, hey, take a chance on me. I'm willing to be a UDFA. I'm willing to grind and make my way. And now look, he's our backup, either right or left edge. So I have opposing views. If I had my druthers, I would probably side towards trying to find somebody else at 23 that maybe is a little more polished and a little more less of a risk.
Yeah, and really what it comes down to, Emilio, is like what Jacob's talking about. If you've got 2 edge defenders, similar grade, one's got these hanging over his head and the other doesn't, that's how a guy ends up falling, right?
Yep, that's a cluster buster. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like a red outline around the name or something, just to give us an idea. The kid, who was it last year? They had that whole draft board up on the screen somehow. They panned over to it, and you saw guys with red on their names, and those are the guys that we had questions about last year. So the NFL teams know that. They know what they're getting into. I think that it would have been nice if there was, maybe not a face, but at least somebody behind the allegations. I think that's, it's kind of tough when you're fighting nothing, but if it's true, it's true. If it's not, it's not. Right. Let him play football and move on. Because once you get past this point, once you get past the draft and everything like that, he's on the team. It's going to be little to, talked about little to none after that. One year in, you're never going to hear about it again. So it would then, and then if it turns out well, you get these reports, he turns out that nothing happened and he goes and crushes it in the NFL, then he'd be used as the example. Hey, some of these reports are X, Y, and Z, and Green came out on the other end of it.
Yeah. And I'm going to be really clear here. if it's true, he needs to be flipping burgers the rest of his life. He don't need to be able to step into a game and make millions of dollars if that's true. But that's the tough part, is like not knowing what's true and what isn't, right? Because the last thing you want to do is not believe a victim. Like that's how more victims come about. It's because that's, like, I'm not going there. When people come out, right, and they speak against an athlete, and then a bunch of fans and a bunch of whoever attack them, you step back and go, damn, this wasn't worth it. I've got to relive this every day of my life now because I'm getting criticized that I was lying about this. And that's how they stay behind the scenes and not speak up. So it's a terrible thing if it's true, but at the same time, hopefully the teams will do enough due diligence that what I want to see happen is he'll make it to the league and we have 110% certainty that all those allegations were false. That's the perfect scenario. Unfortunately, it doesn't always end like that, right? So, yeah, as Carly says here, as a survivor of sexual assault who fought it and it became public, I hate this sort of thing, but I also understand why it may have been, quote, anonymous. The press totally smears you for money. It's a great point. Great point. And that sucks. Known several people to deal with that type of thing. And it's a sad situation altogether. But again, hopefully they get to the truth. And here's the conclusion on it. Mike Green enters the 2025 NFL draft as a polarizing figure. His character concerns stem from 2 sexual assault allegations, high school cleared per Green, and Virginia anonymous unresolved publicly. When he denies vehemently, as of March 19, 2025, these issues haven't derailed his status as a likely day 1 or early day 2 pick. Let's see, on-field performance and a proactive stance at the combine. However, his draft fate hinges on how individual teams weigh the incomplete off-field picture against the undeniable potential as a quarterback disruptor. For now, Green's story is one of talent tempered by uncertainty, with the next month of team interviews likely to clarify his landing spots. So there you go. Anything else you guys want to add to this here with Mike Green? And I got to ask you, we got to do this. Do we want to put a purple mark on his grade? That way we know, hey, there's something there. And then just a quick reminder, oh, that's right. Yeah, he's got the legal stuff. Or do you think
that's up to you, Jacob?
I think purple is a good mark because it reminds us of Vikings and Vikings draft convicts and terrible players. I'm just saying, it makes sense to me. I think it is at least worth noting because then you may understand when you look at it after the fact that, like, hey, like to Clayton's point, there clearly must have been something in those reports that they obtained that made them think, we maybe need to cool it on this guy. That's my opinion. What do you think, Emilio?
I'm thinking Clay can't figure out what color purple is. He's got blue on the board.
You see
He's struggling over here. He's changing.
I was like, that's not really purple. That's magenta.
But yeah, no, I think you got to at least mention it. I think we were able to. You guys, I mean, I wasn't here. You were able to kind of debunk the James Pierce, right? So that you were kind of able to get a more of a definitive answer on. We don't need to track that, but this still up in the air. And I think you just need to kind of remember that it's there.
I will say one thing, that as much as we always want to protect people that have allegations and victims and all that, I do think that there should be an equal, if not just as drastic punishment towards people that make false allegations, because with one accusation, you could absolutely ruin somebody's whole life, their career, their family. Hey, you know what? J. Cole just said right here. He says, I have my thoughts on the situation. I had a friend who was accused of this and the allegations were false. He lost his job. His wife left him. Not saying we should ignore the allegations. It's such a weird line that we have to try to walk. It is why that I believe that the lying season has to find a point where it's like, you better have some evidence. Yeah, you better have some evidence, or else you're at the point where you're actually ruining people's lives. So be real careful with that information.
Definitely. All right, boys, we went over. Surprise, surprise, right? We wrapped up about 30 minutes ago, like the Baptist preach.
That's right.
So that's the way it works. You guys got anything else before we get out of here, man?
Nah.
Nothing. No.
All right. This is fun, man. I appreciate y'all hopping on with me. I feel like we covered a lot. And again, guys, thank y'all for the great feedback on the Patreon group. Really, really enjoy communicating with you guys in there and continuing to build that out so we can give you the best experience possible here with PTA. So with that being said, we'll see y'all tonight.
Sub.
Share.
Video's on me about it. Got to do it. Got to do it. Hit like for us, guys. Hit sub. If everybody who watched this video hit like, oh my gosh, because I think we had 10,000 new viewers last month, and
awesome.
We didn't have
in the off season. In the off season, just crawling into the draft. Draft hasn't even happened.
Understand that wasn't 10,000 new views. That was
Right.
10,000 people that had never watched the show before that watched the show, which is kind of cool. So, yeah, thank you, Red Mo.
I appreciate everyone. That's how we got here, right? Everyone in the chat.
Yeah, I think we're up to anybody who's followed us too. We cracked 1 million views pretty quick, but we had to delete a bunch of content because YouTube wouldn't tell me what was copyright and what wasn't. So we're like, so do I need to scrap everything? They said, yeah. So we just scrapped everything. And now we're officially up to like 1.6 million or something again. So
that's awesome. I remember
that was so frustrating.
Dropped us back down to like 300,000 views. I'm like, we just passed 1 million 3 days ago. What happened?
Yeah.
They hate us because they ain't us.
Exactly.
That's what they say in the streets. Is that right?
That's what Jacob always says.
That's what we say in the holler, Jake. That's that holler cred right there. You got street cred up there. We got holler cred down here. All right. That's it. Bye.
There we go.
Bye, guys.